Let me discuss about the introduction to K-mean clustering. This is the main concept and useful for the machine learning and artificial intelligence. So handling of many data is very hard in human. While dealing with in Python, you can able to get data and it is helpful for the large data set. So in the content we are going to explain the k-mean and with the Python programming how to find it to the data. Let's see the Grand Graph k-mean clustering. K-means is the most popular clustering algorithm. It uses an interactive technique to group unlabeled data into k-means based on the cluster center, that is centroid. The data in each cluster are chosen such that the average distance to the respective centroid is minimized. We heard about the supervised and unsupervised learning. So in supervised learning, they are already given the label data, so we can able to find with the log that means linear regression problems like formula, mathematical problem. Through that we can able to find. But in unsupervised learning, it is hard to difficult. So they use the concept of the k-mean. Through that we can able to predict the unlabeled data and segregate and group the data, and we can able to find the data points. Let's see in the diagram, the left side corner, the unsupervised learning. Okay, input raw data. It see how many clusters are there. We can be able to find the, the actual form of data. So through that we use the concept of interpretation. So that it come to the point on the k-mean that problem. So to that unknown output, no training data set at all. So in supervised learning have the label data so that we can able to figure it. So after that learning algorithm, it learns the algorithm what are the ways the k-means used to follow the to calculate the label data means to form the data set. So in C, in k-mean there are three ways, there are three steps to follow. Step 1, we have to find the centroid point and then find the distance between the cluster 1 and cluster 2. Imagine I said an example between cluster 1 and cluster 2. Through that, we find the least minimum distance and that we can take an action cluster 1. Okay, so it is nearest to the. Don't take the largest distance, only the least distance we take it the distance in the formula. To that they gone into the processing. So it is processed the cluster. After that they given as an output. That means see they given that we can able to understand the cluster compared to the unlabeled data. So this see it in the right side. So unlabeled they are in the black color, that is black point. So we cannot be able to which clusters belong to we cannot able to find. And through that, it's showing that three data clusters. That means cluster 1, cluster 2, and cluster 3. See how many data points can be able to see it. Let me explain about the objective of k-mean clustering. The objective of k-mean clustering is to minimize the sum of squared distance between data point and the assigned cluster. The algorithm aims to partition a set of objects into k clusters, where each observation belongs to the cluster with the nearest mean. The goal is to form groups where data points with each cluster are more similar to each other than those in other clusters. So we discussed the previous slide. That is same point in this. Okay, let me explain the program. Okay, means in first line input panda as pd. So through that we are going to handle the data set in the CSV file. So we are going to importing that matplot means that it will show the graph of the content of the cluster data.pd that we are going to read the data from the Excel sheet through the Python programming. So the PUC5 dataset is going to display the PUC5 dataset. Through that, what are the dataset is available in that. We can see the event and the information of the dataset. it gives the information about the data set. Through that, is useful to what are the ways to get the data and form the cluster, means unlabeled to the cluster that using payment. So you're going to count the number of null values in the data set. Null values is important because null values is not suitable in that means if it is a null value, it show in an in this data k-mean cluster. It should not contain the null value. So after that, the learn the cluster input k-mean. So we are going to it is based on it's created by the machine, means machine learning. It's based on machine learning. So we are going to means the k-mean. So through the k-mean we are going to create a WCS means within cluster sum of square. So we are going to get the data and throw it in the list that is within cluster sum of square. Let's see the next program lines. Let me explain that program. For I entering 1 to 11 to 1 to 11 are going to execute the data point. So k means n cluster. How many n clusters is there in the data set? So it's adding the k mean. That means k equal to number of clusters. That is k mean plus plus. So k means that fit is fitting the data. So it is means what are the limitations? How much the limit data you have to display. So it is adding the data to the WCS data append to the list. So to that store it in the list. So that are going to them in the cluster. So PLD the plot weighing 1 to 11 what are the data, what are the clusters you're going to display in the Python program. I will show it in output weight and then it is X label. So it's going to display the graph of number of clusters and Y label. So WC exception within cluster that is so. So PLD data the elbow method and that means KM, K means n cluster equal to pi dash. So we have pi cluster to display the output. So print km dot print data ilog in 3. So it will show. So K means n cluster equal to 5. It's going to predict and then it will display the data point. So Y prediction, that means we learned in the linear regression that comes in this also. So Y prediction km dot predict data dot ilog 3. So print that Y prediction values and print it the Y predicted value. Through that they are going to frame the data and the data point that so that through that we can able to get centroid value and then a number of clusters. So we find the Y prediction value. It store it in the cluster value. That means so it's frame the data set of cluster in the Excel sheet. So DFGO data cluster equal to it is equal to the geo that is belongs to the cluster geo. That means we have framed the pi data set means pi cluster. So after that PLD record you are going to cluster that means what are the annual income at pending course, what are the predicted we see in the data. I mean annual income is the that belong specific cluster and pending course 1 to 100 that means specific cluster is show it in the red, the cluster is show it in the cluster 1 is show it in the red and label is equal to cluster 0. So and many of the clusters will show that means cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4, cluster 5 and that PLT dot login is shows in the output and PLT dot title customer segment. So yeah, that means annual income that pending course in that. So it is I have stored it in the customer segment. So let me explain the output. So data dot head that means we use in the Python program that five data that means customer ID, gender, age, annual income, and pending course. We need the cluster to print in annual income and pending course only. So it need to frame the cluster only is to give the information that do this and then we can able to print the cluster. Or data that info that information of the data. So it belongs to pandas means pandas. So pandas I tell now that the rows and column contain the data set will be displayed. Okay. So and then slash pandas. So pandas 200 entries due to 199. So data column, the total 5 columns you have to display. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is 5 4 columns is important to this. So what are the data type and null values, or how many null values, that means. So d type in integer is your object, memory usage is the associate usage of memory, and that's all. So data dot is null, it whether is to the null values, and dot sum, the sum of the null values in the number of columns, that means number of data sets. So customer ID, gender, age, annual income, pending course, there is no null value, so you can able to get the clusters. Okay, and then how many clusters in the came in number cluster. So we have 5 clusters, so we are going to frame the unlabeled to the labeled data into 5 clusters, that's all. So how many clusters, that means in the you have you see it in the list 4040, that means that it belongs to the cluster, whatever cluster it belongs to it, that means yeah, that's all. Let's see the output. So the the gradually going down, that means it's like a logarithmic loss method. So it's showing the elbow method. So number of clusters, how in the second cluster how many clusters there for, that means it belongs to how many clusters there is. That means WCX means the within cluster how many belong to data, how many data have. So in the down customer segment we frame, and that means the if the number of you see different colors is showing, that means the different cluster, that means cluster you have red, cluster 1 you have black, cluster 2 you have blue, that means the number of colors. So frame the clusters to it is the beautiful programming in Python, so we can it is very useful in machine learning. Without a Python program, machine learning will not go down. So good Python programming is good for it. Machine learning. Let us explain the applications of k-means clustering. That means where are they use the clustering example. That means insurance fraud detection. So number of fraud is occurring in the world. In India, many of the fraud is occurring. So we have to avoid these things. Insurance fraud detection we have to use. That means search engine. Means in advanced level, modern world, they used website, the creation of website. So the people used to search meaning product, that means structures like object, like mean. So what are the people, what are preparing, they can able to predict by the search engine. So we can able to use in the concept that came in only we can able to create a search engine. So the customer segmentation. So the customer segmentation, what are the customers that preparing to that classes, and what are the customers is preparing. It means I am going to Delhi, I am preparing Delhi. Another my friend preparing that I think Kashi. So these are the places she like, and I like that place. That's all. The crime for detection. What are the crimes occurring? We can able to see it. So diagnostic system in our body we can able to predict it. So through that we can diagnose the data and able to get that and frame the cluster. Through that oh it is wrong, it is in body, you have to do the operation. It is helpful in that medical therapy. Thank you. If you have any doubt, contact me in the YouTube at Venkatanaral.